Hey everybody, what's up? This is the Convo Couch, and I am here with Pasta, and he should be here any second now. That's why I was seemingly caught off
Okay,
guard because
stop,
he wasn't
stop.
there and he failed to show his presence.
All right.
We haven't been back in a while. I've been traveling, so has Pasta. But we, as I said before, we are planning a revamping and redoing of everything. But of course, in the age of censorship, as you know, we have been very careful because not only are we being taken off YouTube, but we're also being taken off literally our houses now. Journalists and people getting arrested everywhere. So this is really the point we've been talking about for years now, the point of no return, Pasta. But
Yeah.
you have returned. What's going on, fam? What's going on with you? I'm
Well, I'd
sharing
like to do
this as
another
well.
introduction. I'm sorry I got up and got coffee late. I totally forgot that I didn't have the time for the intro that I normally play on my show, so I didn't do you a solid there. But keeping with tradition, being that I'm the good-looking, funny, entertaining one, and you're the smart one, let me
Yeah.
introduce the show properly. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. I am your host, Craig Pasta Jaradula, and with me, of course, my co-host,
Fiorella.
we are here to bring you yada 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 yada. You know, fam, I gotta tell you, man, like all this, the censorship is just beyond ridiculous. It's out of control. You know, the Pavel Durov thing really is just a little bit more about like it just shows you where we're at in America. You know, they were trying to say today when I was on the Sputnik show, I was in the final countdown. They were saying, man, they didn't give the same treatment to Julian Assange that they've given to Pavel. But what bothers me, fam, is that the citizenry, the people here in the United States, it's like this is the Walking Dead. And I think the zombies are the actual people who are alive. And the other people who are alive in the Walking Dead are just the people who have a sense of consciousness. How long are they going to allow this stuff to go on? How long are they going to allow the First Amendment to be trampled on? How long are they going to have civil liberties taken away from them? Like, that was the big thing. Like, the Republican on the show was agreeing with me. And as I was arguing with the establishment friendly, repeat the Democratic talking point, liberal or Democrat, where it's like, well, yeah, they have to take away some of our civil liberties. We're not entitled to privacy because we got to catch predators and sex pedophiles. So I asked them, can you name me the specifics of one case? No. People just repeat the propaganda out there. They spew it like it's tomato sauce on spaghetti. And I mean, what are we doing out here? You know, I talked to my other friend in the business the other day. She even said too as well. She goes, you know, we're giving it a year. What difference does it make if the people aren't going to wake up to what's going on? What are we doing? We're wasting our breath over here. People need to wake up. And from what we saw at the convention in Chicago, fam, all these people supporting Kamala Harris when she doesn't have a lick, not one piece of policy on her website. It's just that they feel good. I mean, they're walking us off a cliff over here, fam.
Yeah, and so my fear is we have always had this First Amendment, right, in the Constitution. You can criticize a lot about the United States, but it is there. And in the Constitution, if it was actually validated in the way it should be, we would have more protections on the First Amendment regarding that. But right now, we have it, but our protections have been slowly, completely dwindling in terms of free speech. We have seen the United States threaten that people affiliated with Russia are subject to questioning, detention. And this is already happening in the UK, actually. In the UK, several people have been arrested. And in the EU, of course, CEO Pavel Durov was arrested in France. He actually did become a French citizen. He left Russia due to the crackdowns that he thought were coming to Russia in an ironic twist of events. And there he is, arrested by the government he went to for solace. Now, you can laugh at this and you can say, well, you know, he deserves it because he's some sort of billionaire. I will say, look, like, I know this man didn't talk about Julian Assange. I know he's a billionaire. I know he was pretty much, you know, trying to say politically negative things about Russia, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. This man, in spite of doing all of that, was arrested, and he was arrested for refusing to moderate the content on Telegram in a way that the EU wanted, in a way that they wanted, meaning they want him to release all the private conversations and private messaging that um, would basically defeat the purpose of the reason Telegram use it, because people use Telegram for encryption purposes because it's safe to do so. And obviously now that's no longer going to be the case. So you have a link here to my Beyond Headlines thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can go ahead and play that. And then I will, because I lay out exactly what the 20 something counts that he has been accused of are, and then we can talk a little bit about it. Let's have a listen to that.
Dead
Pam,
air.
before Jayme pulls it up,
Jayme, what's
regarding
up? You got it? Are you in the doc, Jayme?
Okay, he's pulling it up. There he is. Oh God.
Now we all know that Telegram founder Pavel Durov was arrested in Paris, France, and faces up to 20 years in prison. The main claim is related to encrypted messages, which is, of course, the entire reason why everybody uses Telegram, to make sure that their messages are not hackable or given up to any authorities. Now, Durov has been charged with multiple crimes on 21 accounts. Among them, refusal to give up, at the request of the authorities, the necessary information or documents for the realization of law enforcement action. In other words, the refusal to give up people's private messages to authorities. Again, the entire reason why people have been using Telegram. He has also been charged with complicity in possession of pornographic images of children, complicity in acquisition, transportation, possession, and distribution of illegal drugs or substances, providing illegal or cryptological services, aka communications privacy. But are these so-called crimes fair? Not according to a lot of people online, not according to lawyers, not according to the entirety of anybody who believes in the First Amendment. First of all, if Durov is guilty for what others do or say on the messaging platform, then so would phone companies or other messaging platforms like WhatsApp or Gmail or any other messaging service. Facebook, Instagram, X, and others could also be found guilty in this way. This not only against the privacy of the average citizen, but also a massive attack on free speech, journalism, and of course the sharing of truthful and necessary information regarding injustice, war crimes, and any other pertinent information the public should have access to. So basically, Durov is being charged for the crime of not censoring posters and for not allowing the EU and Western intelligence to access private data, information, and messages on Telegram.
So, Pasta, I just want to ask you this: if they're going to charge him for pedophilia, for dealing drugs, for things that other people have done, wouldn't that then extend to literally every other platform, like
Yeah.
to Facebook, to Instagram, to
To
Snapchat,
Gmail.
WhatsApp,
To
Gmail,
Gmail,
anything,
right?
YouTube? Because I could say something, right? We could do something here where I say, hey, why don't you go do this and that? I mean, this is a slippery slope, right? Where's the limit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And was it Ben Franklin who said those who give up a little bit of security to gain a little temporary safety deserve neither safety nor security themselves? I don't know if it was Ben Franklin who says it. I usually pick the wrong person, but I think it was Ben Franklin who said that. And there's a reason why, right? I mean, listen, you can't trample on people's civil liberties just to get a few. And at the end of the day, fam, let's be honest. They don't need to get Telegram. It makes it easier for them. But if the cops are doing their jobs every day on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, we see everyday citizens catching child predators, everyday citizens using just the basic tools. They don't have encryption tools. They don't have tools to get into the back doors of anything. This is not about catching the pedophilia freaks or catching gun runners or drug dealers. This is about controlling speech. They don't want to lose their control. They don't like the stuff that's being said about Israel. This is almost a spinning image mirror image of what happened with TikTok. They talked about getting rid of TikTok, then it went away. Then after October 7th, so many people used it and actually showed what was going on with the sickening, disgusting IDF was doing and how they were burying children under rubble. And that was really pushing back against trying to control the narrative for the state of Israel. So now all of a sudden it pops back up in our Congress because, once again, our Congress are the little whipping boys and girls of the state of Israel. They start putting TikTok on the block again, too, as well, because they're not moderating the content the way the state wants to do this. Fam, we've been saying this from the get-go. It's not for the state to decide what's true or false. It's we, the people out there, who decide what is true or false. Unless they are really inciting violence. And no, I don't want to hear about your little hate speech stuff, because that's just another backdoor cloak and dagger way to censor more speech against the state. And that's what this is about, pushing back against the state. If they don't like it, they're coming after you, and they're coming after Pavel.
Well, yeah, and in the United States in particular, because like every country has their different parameters. But if we're talking about the United States specifically, the United States was supposedly built on having that, and that's clearly not happening. And I don't know the intricacies of France's law, but I believe it's gotten worse than it used to be in terms of the freedom of speech, because we have seen, right, the protests to reduce the age of retirement. We have seen the protests of the yellow vests. We have seen all of that happen. And yet now you have France, who many in the states have looked on to be a beacon of democracy in terms of fighting back, in terms of, literally chopping heads off and revolution, really becoming an example of this descent into fascism that we're seeing in the collective West, starting off with France, and mostly the worst of all of them has been the UK. And we'll get to that in a second. But this is very worrying, regardless of Durov, because this is likely to set a precedent and likely to be followed against other people. And here's a billionaire that's very powerful and has money to defend himself. What about the common everyday folk? What about the people that are just protesting and saying something that the French state or that the EU don't like? What about those people that can't defend themselves, where there won't be publicity? I think that's something to be looked on as well.
Yeah, I mean, we are here today, fam, because of what has happened in the past, from the lack of pushback from the citizens, from the West. I mean, that First Amendment was created for you. The Second Amendment, okay, was created for you too. But how much does it have to be trampled on? And fam, I really think a lot of this goes to the fact that, and this is very interesting right now, right? Because with Pavel Durov, it's really not about team sports. I think when it came to a lot of the other censoring, a lot of the leftists just got a line, or they didn't like any single time there was pushback against Elon Musk because Elon Musk was bad, and then you understand, look at what Elon did. He couldn't find Venezuela on a map 3 months ago, and then he was just Maduro this, Maduro that, and everybody got in line. People play too much team sports over here. You know what I'm saying? They got to put the partisan hack stuff off to the side and understand this is bigger than that. This is a slippery slope right now, and everybody's asleep at the wheel, That's why I'm concentrating more on my fantasy football draft tonight, fam.
And you had something about Zuckerberg.
Well, this is another thing we have to bring up, right? I mean, I don't know if you believe this, fam. Literally, once again on the show today, like unknowingly, they, he denies that this is Zuckerberg. He denies that the data, your personal data, ladies and gentlemen, they went in there, saw the post you looked at, the comments you made, where you surfed. They used that and created some type of they used AI to create some type of record on you to understand what you like. Remember, I used to tell you all the time, ladies and gentlemen, that when I'm doing my work, if I see something with huskies or otters, I'd get distracted. Well, they knew that I liked huskies and otters. They were able to create this digital footprint on you. And Zuckerberg sold all that information to groups like Cambridge Analytica and others. He denies it, but there are whistleblowers within, who work for Zuck and says, no, Zuckerberg knew exactly what he was doing. And whether he knew or not, it was his company that sold the data. Pavel Durov refused to do so. He refused to sell your data. Zuckerberg is now caught there complaining, fam, that he wish he didn't censor so much. Well, you know what? Too late. That boat has already sailed. But there's a reason why Zuckerberg's on a surfboard with an American flag, and Pavel Durov was just, can't leave France now. He's got to check in 2 times a week at the police station in France, fam. Can't leave. There's a big difference.
Yeah, and chances are he's not going to hold off much longer. Chances are that he's going to give in and give that data. I mean, we don't know, but chances are, based on the information we know, that he's going to do that. He's not going to sacrifice 20 years in prison to do that. They're going to come up with some sort of deal. And so Telegram is also a ticking time bomb in terms of how much you can rely on it for security. The truth is nothing is secure at this point in the game. No particular messaging platform or anything is secure.
This was it. And I was like, man, Fiorella was so smart to start that Telegram channel. I wish I paid more attention to what was going on. I wish I learned a lot more about this guy, the reasons why he did this, and I believe it too as well. Fam, there comes a time when you get certain money and you don't really see it, or you have plenty of it, right? You're not gonna have to worry about money. I don't think that this guy was really all about making money. I think he really had a vision and a quest, and that's to make sure that he had a platform that was secure, transparent, open source the way it's used. And the fact is that you would protect your privacy. He would protect your privacy. And that was what it was all about. And, he was bringing back something that was lost throughout the West. And it was awesome that he was doing about it. And I think you are right, fam. I don't think he's going to sacrifice 20 years of living in a jail cell just because, he didn't give up this data at this point. I mean, everybody's got a breaking point, and it really is a shame, because this is going to be like one of the last of the Mohican spots. Like, really, to tell you the truth, now I want to start a Telegram, knowing what he's all about. A little bit too late to the party when they're getting ready to almost get rid of it. But man, this is a sad story today. This is really a sad story.
So the last you had another thing, but you took it out, right? Because on the UAE there was something on that, but it says it was false. So
What,
I
the
don't know if we
weapons
need
deal?
to put that one up. Yeah. It says this Al Jazeera never posted that video, and it's like a fake video. So I don't know if you
All
want to
right,
show
the
that.
video is fake. I wanted to just take the words that were up there, but we can find something else. We'll use something else. But from what I understand is that the UAE did freeze a deal. Is that still not
Mhm.
true?
According to this, the claims aren't verified. I don't know what it was that you wanted to show, so I can't confirm nor deny.
Let
I
me
can
see.
neither confirm nor deny.
Supposedly, from what I understood, is that, well, I know that Pavel Durov was really close friends with I believe the prime minister. I don't think it's the prime minister, or the Kim.com also put it up there too as well. I didn't want to use Kim.com, but they said they froze a $17 billion deal over the arrest of Pavel Durov. Supposedly, Pavel was close with the deputy prime minister of the UAE, and very close with his son. And I did see a tweet earlier that the UAE was demanding that he be released. So we'll see what's going on with that. But he does have citizenship in the UAE. And, I would hope that, fam, that he would somehow kind of get away from where he's at in the West, get back to the UAE and enjoy some protection,
According to reliable accounts, it's fake.
The Al Jazeera video might be fake, but what about the story itself?
Yeah.
If we type in UAE,
I'm not sure, but we can get back to it if we find a little bit more.
So yeah, I see a lot of it on Twitter, and it says there's another one. UAE, United Emirates, is completely frozen the implementation of a contract to purchase fighter jets, 80 fighter jets from France. And that deal is worth billions of dollars. We don't really have to harp on it too much. We can find out. But that is what I saw earlier, that the UAE is, and the UAE is at least speaking up. He has citizenship over there, and that's where he lives. That's where the company is. I believe that's where the data is, so that's where it's stored. Interesting. So we'll just keep following this case and see what's going on.
Yeah, the UAE speaking up because he's he's a very powerful person, and so now you have people like Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson and a lot of in Trump, right, saying he should be freed because they're trying to politicize this whole thing, but it's really not a left right issue. It's just literally like it does set a precedent if somebody that powerful can be arrested for this, and then what's going to happen to everybody else. I think that's the important factor of it all that people aren't really talking about. And people tend to try to make martyrs, not even in the correct sense in the West, out of or heroes, I should say, out of these people, but really it's just how is it going to affect everybody else. That's the important point. Um, so I want to talk about this, fam, because I think it's important what's really happening in the UK. And I honestly didn't expect it to go this quick. And I was having a conversation just a little bit ago with Vanessa Beeley because she's from the UK. And you know, she has been detained before, but what we have seen now happening in the UK has been worse. There is the UK terror terror terrorism act that is being weaponized to arrest dissidents that are reportedly working in some sort of way with terrorists, which they mean Hamas, because Hamas is designated a terrorist group in the UK. So, with that being there, is how they're using this. And Vanessa and Kit Clarenberg, and I believe a few others, were arrested prior under the Section 7 of this act. Now, Richard Medhurst was arrested under Section 12, which is worse. And then he was actually arrested. He wasn't just detained, and he was arrested and now has to, face potential charges. And we also just saw a Palestinian activist who has also done some journalistic work. Her name is Sarah Wilkinson, and she was arrested in a very, very just disturbing and fascist way. And I say that word not lightly. I'm not one to use that word lightly. So because what ended up happening is that the police came to her house at 7:30, right before 7:30 a.m. And it was 12 police officers that came. They came in regular clothing, and they were from the counterterrorism police. So that would be like either the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security in the United States or something like that. And they said that she was arrested for her content that she has posted online. And they raided her entire house, and they took all her computer, phone, all of that stuff, electronic devices. So I said, it seems like the UK is in the plot of V for Vendetta, in the beginning, at least, when people were being persecuted. Because actually, there's another person that I didn't even put on there because this just happened that's been arrested. Uh, and it's kind of insane. If you go down to in the second tweet, I added the other person that's been arrested. It's another UK activist that was also arrested. This is getting worse there, and I think they're the ones that are probably by far the worst out of all of us in terms of what's the collective West, right? There was a targeted campaign by Israel against Palestine Action's co-founder Richard Barnard, who is now facing 3 charges for 2 speeches, political speeches they gave at, I think, a rally of sorts. And he is accused of supporting the prescribed organization under the Terrorism Act and encouraging criminal activity. So, I mean, this is, insane to me. I don't know what you think of this, Pasta, but the fact that they arrested Sarah for her content online, same for Richard, and this person for a political speech. What we're seeing here is you cannot speak out against genocide. Genocide being against genocide is bad. You cannot speak out against Israel because that's also unlawful, and they will tie you to Hamas every single time.
Yeah. When it comes to the United States, when it comes to England, when it comes to France, when it comes to all the Five Eyes countries, they are walking and stepping as one. And you can't speak out against the state. I mean, this is just, this is obviously one situation when it comes to genocide, speaking out against Israel. But, it's not going to stop here. And it's going to spread out to every single part. We look at the whole situation when it comes to Pavel Durov, and we see what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? They don't care. This is not going to stop until we stop them. That's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going to stop until we stop them. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. They're going to continue to arrest activists. They're going to continue to arrest anybody who speaks up until they're stopped. That's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to get any better. We can't just write a letter. We can't voice our opinion. We can't make a video. We literally need to the streets. Pitchforks.
Yeah.
Pitchforks.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to understand at this point. These people who are controlling things are the most sociopathic, narcissistic human beings. They think what they're doing is justified and right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're only steps away before they put us all back in our cages. Better wake up.
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. I mean, police coming to your house in the crack of dawn at 7:30 and banging on your doorstep and having 12 people for like, a little woman, like it's insanity. And so now what we have been warning about for years, we've been talking about for years, with what people like also Whitney Webb has pointed out as well, and others, we have been saying that there's going to be this technocratic sort of fascistic takeover by the state, right? By the states, and collectively the West is leading this charge. And so it's ironic because seeing this happen from a dictatorship of Vladimir Putin and Russia is funny, right? Because here supposedly we're not free, you're not allowed to say this or that, and you're not allowed to criticize Putin, and everybody's a Putin loving citizen, and if you're not, you just get kicked out. Entirely false. But this is the place that's supposed to be the dictatorship, and none of that is happening here. You can have dissent. A lot of people I've talked to aren't a fan of Putin or are, but have their own criticisms of Russia and so on and so forth. And there's various degrees of what people think and stuff, and they speak it. And in China as well, China is supposed to be this very authoritarian state, and we're not seeing what we see here in Europe, in the democratic West. So it is beyond irony at this point. This is in fact funny because Putin did do something recently where he allowed he's pushing to give visas where tourists can come and see if they like Russia and extend those visas and so on and so forth. And that's also being pushed by Russia because they're kind of noticing how like people are leaving the United States and they're leaving Europe because they're like, what the hell is going on here? And in some form or fashion, if this becomes a serious thing where people in the UK cannot speak and cannot say things, they're going to leave. And ironically, it is those of us that are in other countries that are saying, hey, this is pretty bad. You guys might want to pay attention. And until people get out in the streets, it's not going to change. You're right. I don't know if people are ready for that in the US, but people in the UK might want to get out there very soon.
Not that we stand up for Russia because we think they're right. We stand up against the United States because we know they're wrong. And we can only talk about the things that our country does. We have to clean our own house first. You might live in Russia. I might like Russia, at least the government, but it's not our government. It's not where we're born. Yeah. We have a responsibility to talk out against our state and what they're doing. And all the time we see all these things happen, it seems like at the end of the day, and Fiorella just spelled it out for you. It's like not all rose-colored glasses over there and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But every single time we see a foreign policy decision that's made, it has to be made by Putin or China or anybody who's opposing the West. They're making it because it's a reaction to what the West has done. The West wants to control everything. They're control freaks. Every single part of it, like every single part of the government, every single part of the two-party illusion that we're looking at right now. They want their control. They don't want to give it up. They don't care about anybody else. The system, like Steve used to say, is designed to kill you. They don't care about you. And we have to start sticking up for ourselves. We have to stop taking the bait when they say, well, Russia's doing that. I mean, everybody does this, right? Conservatives, liberals, libertarians, they always talk about how all these other governments are awful and what's going on. Well, all these other governments, all these other countries are simply reacting to the United States actions. And we're living behind the gun. It's time to take the gun out of the petulant child's hands.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the US is ready for that at this point,
not.
unfortunately.
People
But
are too consumed, fam. They're too consumed.
yeah.
And you know what? Listen, we can be hard on a lot of people and saying they're consumed by all bullshit propaganda, leisure activities. You know, I mentioned fantasy football. What does it really even mean nowadays? Breads and circuses, right? But people are also consumed with just trying to make ends meet. They're struggling out there, you know, and they're putting poison foods in their bodies and addictive drugs that aren't necessary are clouding their heads. I mean, we have a sick, messed up society right now, and it's just not getting any better. And what we saw in Chicago was very depressing. You know what I'm saying? Even the people in the streets that were pushing back, they got to have a better message, a more clear message. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, it's this, and to lose their cool like some of them did right when they had a great rallies, and to lose their cool and allow their message to be tainted and twisted. I don't know. I mean, as an organizer, you got to be on your game, and you got to make sure that your message is out there and it's strong and it's not twisted and tainted. And you can't allow these people to set the narrative themselves, because the state wants to set the narrative themselves. And at the end of the day, it seems like they're accomplishing their ultimate goal, which is divide and conquer. And people are still yelling and screaming at each other rather than looking up and screaming at the government. I'm lost for words. I'm lost for ideas at this point.
Yeah.
Because you're right. People aren't ready for it, fam. They're not ready to push back against it.
One of the most important things about any sort of revolt or counter movement is the people have to be ready, and they have to be given the tools in order to be ready. And right now we don't really have that. And, you know, internet groups and internet parties that aren't really real aren't doing anything. They're not informing the average person. It's going to take something bigger in the US for people to be ready, but we are already on that descent of downward spiral. As you said, it is a sick society. It is a society that is hurting very bad. In Russia, you don't see drug addiction, you don't see mass homelessness, you don't see all of that overall in Russia, especially in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and even in places like Donbass, where they, you know, Mariupol, Sevastopol, Crimea, you don't see that. In spite of the fact that there is a war going on, there are many factors as to why, but among them is, I get asked the question by Russians, why isn't the government helping the people? Well, because we also have people that don't want the government to interfere. We also have a different government that only interferes to pretty much bomb the rest of the world. But when it comes to the American public, they don't really do anything to help. And it's hard for people here to understand that. So it's a whole different mentality here when it comes to how the government functions.
I think that, you know, and obviously when we're talking about the libertarians that don't want the government to interfere, is that I think that the government is doing way more harm than help at this point, and I'd rather them just stop getting involved than actually continue to get involved. I mean, I don't know if I believe in the theory that, you know, no matter what, the government is going to be a negative force and will always digress to a bad state that wants to kill you. If we had a election system that was representative of we the people, and we can hire and fire
Right.
people at wells, maybe what we had talked about, where we can actually have a government that does well, because therefore there has to be accountability. With no accountability, everything is gonna run crazy. But even listening to Jillian Michaels, I believe her name was, CheeseSlice, the woman, the mom from the Terminator movies. I believe her name is Jillian Michaels, right? If you haven't seen the Terminators, she was the mom. She's gay, the woman, and she once wasn't, and she had children. I don't know if she always was, but she had children. She had talked about it. She says, "I'm gay. One of my kids is half Latino. The other kid's half black." She goes, "I hit all the marks on your culture war card. However, the rules," and she's left. She's left California. She goes, "It's just been, you guys are getting out of hand. The left in America is not left. It's gotten crazy. It's gotten out of hands." And she's even talking about, this is where we're at. I mean, we have this, and this is an act. This is a plan, right? This is not something that's just happening naturally and it's, oh, we'll just go along. No, this is a plan to destroy society, destroy the families, destroy your brains, make you easier to control. And we've had this time of acceleration, and it ain't getting any better. The propaganda is getting higher. They have more laws to infringe on your civil liberties. There are no privacy. If there's somebody who wants to give us some privacy, they're going to throw them in jail. We are under attack, ladies and gentlemen, and it is getting really, really bad. And I noticed that completely in Chicago. I said, I don't know if there's a way out of this right now. Might move to Nicaragua, fam. Just pull stuff out of the ocean, make pasta. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Well,
Catch me down there.
Well, that's the thing, though. If we all leave, then what's left, right? I've always thought about this. This is why I always go back and check in, and I'll do all these things and I travel often. I don't just stay here because I think it's important that we connect throughout the world. And being in Iraq, I definitely saw a lot of things that reminded me that there's so many similarities in a lot of these countries that have undergone attacks by the United States and by the West. They have this similar resilience about them that we don't have because we haven't been on the bomb receiving end of things. And I think that's what's missing to allow us to break through that. And maybe eventually, we will. But for now, we're dealing with the fascistic police, by the way, many of them often trained by the IDF. There were some arrests made at the University of Michigan, right? You had this on there. And
we have to give it up to Jayme. Jayme said the other day, as I was making him angel hair shrimp pomodoro with a fresh basil on top, he was even saying that at least the kids are on the right side of history right now. And that's awesome to see. And as soon as they got back to school, they went right at it. So I know a lot of these kids out there are wearing masks and afraid of COVID, and that's a shame. And that's sad because they fall for the propaganda there. But right now, the kids, the students, they're on the right side of history, and I'm very proud of them. I think that was Glory Jones there with the hair. You see her?
This is in Michigan.
I think she went to Michigan.
Back up. Everybody needs to back up.
So we in the U.S., protesting genocide could get you expelled. By the way, it can get you kicked out of scholarships. It can get you in trouble with the police. And it wasn't too long ago, by the way, that Johnny and I and other journalists got arrested in LA for showing the bullets, the injuries on these protesters during the George Floyd, and all we were doing was filming. We weren't even doing anything else. And this isn't surprising to me what we're seeing here with the police whatsoever. It's really not surprising. It again, everything is just getting worse. But I was talking to Vanessa about this. It seems like there's an acceleration in how these crackdowns are coming, and this is why I want to lead into this next topic with this. I do think that Donald Trump would be another method of acceleration to a war with Iran, because the people he's surrounded with are Zionists. The entire Adelson group, right? We're talking the APAC funds both the Democrats and Republicans. We know that. But this is a little bit out of hand here. It's almost like they're competing to see who's the most Zionist, if it's Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And no longer are we asking ourselves, who's interfering in our elections? Israel has been interfering in our elections for the longest time. In our politics, Israel is owning all of our candidates, and none of that can be talked about because we are deemed anti-Semitic. And in fact, anything that I am saying right now could also be deemed anti-Semitic, because they don't understand the fact that speaking out against a genocide and being anti-Zionist does not mean anything to do with Jewish people as a whole, in spite of the fact that there are Jewish people also doing the same thing. So it is incredible to me that people think that there will be a difference between a Trump presidency and a Kamala presidency, other than the positioning and the rebranding of how the politics will be done. So with Kamala Harris, you're going to get more of the, what people call woke, what I just simply call cultural identity politics. You're going to get more of that. With the Trump, you're going to get anti that domestically. But when it comes to even border issues, when it comes to everything else, that's likely a smidgen of difference domestically. Where we're going to get no difference at all whatsoever is in foreign policy. So I want to start off with that, fam. What are your thoughts on Kennedy joining the Trump and campaign, and joining also Tulsi Gabbard, both Democrats, by the way, previously, and now joining the Republican side?
Yeah. Oh God, fam. First of all, AOC says that Kamala Harris is working endlessly or tirelessly, I can't which one, to bring about a ceasefire. She's working really hard. It's really hard. Snap your finger, ceasefire. We know it's not going to happen. Please, Doug Emhoff, Kamala's husband, big time Zionist. We know we're going to get. There's going to be no difference. However, I would like to say that the marketing appears to look, if you look at these two candidates, you would probably say, there's not a lot of difference. Definitely when it comes to Israel, definitely when it comes to the border. In fact, it might be worse with Donald Trump, right? Because the Republicans are so xenophobic. They blame everything on immigration without talking about the cause of migration itself. With that being said, people like Jayme, CheeseSlice, I'm going to expose him right now, saying, well, I don't know. The Democrats are so far out of hand. Right. What I talked about with Jillian Michaels, the laws, she was even saying, if my kid came to me and he's 12 years old and he said he was trans, I'd say, hey, good for you. You can wear what you want. I'll call you what you want, but you're not changing your body chemistry until your body's completely developed. They're making laws right now that are allowing a child to do that. They're making laws that when in a court case, if a parent pushes back against that, he can be in trouble or she can be in trouble and lose custody. Are there areas, in your personal opinion, where you would say to yourself, fam, I'm going to take a shot with Donald Trump because at least in these areas, I think it's a little different. I'm going to piggyback on that in a second, but I just want to know, in your personal opinion, you think there's a little collateral damage? We'll say there and go, Donald Trump, he is the lesser of two evils in this situation. Go ahead, fam.
I don't know why we're still talking about the lesser of two evils, because it's still evil. I mean, at this point, I think we need to learn, number one, that I understand why people have certain concerns depending on the issues that they most relate to, right? If you are a parent of a trans child or a child that wants to go through these puberty blockers and all of that, and that's your concern, sure. But who are you? You are a very, very small percentage of the population. I don't consider this issue, and I've had this discussion with you and our friend Gloria. I don't consider this issue to be a main issue. I consider this issue to be a privileged issue on both ends of the spectrum, meaning the liberals who are hyper focused on it and literally want to make it their number one issue as to why they need to vote for Kamala against Trump, which is hilarious because she literally denied gender reassignment surgery to an inmate, by the way. But like they're so focused on this that it really, to me, it's an issue of privilege. It's an issue of privilege because you're literally not focused on the economics of it. Literally in the rest of the world, people are not focused on this sort of thing because they have other issues stemming from the fact that they have been on the receiving end of bombs, they have been on the end of US intervention. And in the United States, we're fighting about this. And this is precisely because we have the ability to do so, but also because we are completely distracted. And on the right, they act like this is the number one thing and in the entire world, that this is literally about children and blah blah blah. The same people that are focused on saving the children from pedophilia and saving the children from bad food and saving the children from puberty blockers are the same people that have zero problem with killing the children in Gaza, the children in Palestine. So to me,
Children in Latin
what they
America.
mean
Yeah.
what they mean is saving the US American children. Okay, and that's fine. And everybody has their red lines, everybody has their preferences, but what I will say is, to me, these issues affect such a small percentage of the population. If we're talking about a tyrannical force, a fascistic force that is trying to control our every move, it's going to start with speech. It's going to start with literally everything else. It's going to start with war. All of these things that are happening now, to me, that's where I'm looking. The problem is the majority of Americans are looking at only the border, the trans issue, and blah, blah, blah. So I understand why politicians focus on that, but it's really, for me, it's not that. That's ultimately just
Okay.
an issue.
What
for me
about
that's not an
areas
issue.
of censorship and speech? We can honestly say that yes, both parties have been awful, but the Democrats. I mean, we're on the Convo Couch right now, fam, and I did mention AOC earlier in the show, but it was no surprise to me that your channel, Nico's channels, Frank Analysis channels, even Graham Elwood, all these channels got taken down the day after AOC issued a letter to her supporters to go and report people. And we haven't seen our monetization since. We're the only ones that haven't seen the monetization back. Everybody has. I mean, Nico just got his last year, but couldn't we say in areas of speech, because even AOC has repeated, they're big on hate speech. Well, deplatforming works. Can we say the area of censorship, the Republicans are slightly better, if not more better than the Democrats?
I would say that people, perhaps the voting base is better. Like the majority of the people that are supporting the Republican Party are better about. They care more about censorship and speech and all of that. The Democratic Party once was supposed to be the party that valued speech. But do I think that a Trump presidency isn't going to censor pro-Palestinian voices or voices that don't want war with Iran? No, of course they will. They have been on X. Elon Musk has been censoring pro-Palestinian voices for a long time. He messed with Maduro's check mark. He took it away. He took down a bunch of Venezuelan activists on Twitter. So you're not going to tell me that the right, because that is the right, doesn't do it. They do it. They just do it for the issues they care about. So for me, again, I go back to, I don't want to play the game of like, oh, is this better than that? In some instances, yeah, they are better, and I understand that. And in some instances, when we talk about perhaps a ramping up of a war with Iran and the whole anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, south of the border, that will be a manufacture of consent under the Trump administration that will move the theater into Iran, away from Ukraine. Maybe we don't know that either, because under Trump there was also that ramping up. He did approve all of this money. He did approve all of that. He did approve Operation Warp Speed. He did approve a lot of things, and he did kill Soleimani and expanded the Caesar Act in Syria. So what I'm trying to get to is the minuscule differences domestically will not be enough because they will come back in consequence. Our domestic policies will be defined by our foreign policy. So when you separate them and you say, well, maybe for this here, you're really not looking at the core issue and the big picture as to what will happen. So for me, I really don't care who becomes president at this point. I don't think there's any salvation. I think it's a whole psyop. You have RFK Jr. and Tulsi and Trump being put in as like the Avengers crew and Captain America and Wonder Woman coming
I
to
saw you
save the
comment on
United
that.
States. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. If there is any sort of push by the right or left establishment, I'm sorry to tell you, they're controlled opposition. It is controlled opposition. What has Kennedy
You're
done?
absolutely right. And we have to be careful about where they take them from. That's why, and I know we're going to get into this whole situation because really, to tell you the truth, RFK's speech on why he was supporting Donald Trump when he was dropping out of the race, it was great. And I think that, you know, because I've been doing this with you for so long and you have such an effect on me, like I understand exactly too. And I got to say that Steve, right? Like working with Steve, we have that now. I think we have a different approach, right? And we have different things with the way we look at things. I think that what he's talking about is so important. These are the conversations I've wanted to have about what these captured agencies do, these regulatory agencies, whether it be the FDA, the CDC, the EPA, how they work directly for the government and they do the work for the government and for the oligarchs and not for the people is very important. I mean, at the end of the day, the food we eat, you know, and the food that's in our grocery stores, it's actual poison here. It's terrible what's going on. And these foods that are legal here are not even legal in other countries. That's how bad they are. What I'm hoping is that these discussions that I think are important, why I wanted RFK to be involved with this whole situation in the first place, and I said this too, October 7th never happens. I would probably be wearing an RFK shirt at this point right now because I wouldn't realize, I don't think the world would realize, and I'm the one who asked him the question, how hard of a hardcore Zionist this guy is, that he's so compromised that you can't stand behind him. However, the discussions that were coming into play that have never come into play before about what big pharma is doing, what these industries are doing, what big agriculture are doing, this is something serious, fam, and we have to get it under control. I mean, it's crazy to me the way the Republicans took over the health movement. Right now, it's all the Republicans now, the populist right, that are eating healthy, eating vitamins, saying stay away from big pharma. When it used to be the other way around.
It used to be the liberal hippies.
Yeah, my hope is that these discussions that are being had, somebody else picks up the mantle. Somebody else is able to move forward these messages of getting our water, our food, our health under control. But the problem is the suppression of voice, right? The censorship that we're dealing with doesn't allow for individuals to go and take the mantle and run with it. Unfortunately, they choose who runs with it because, fam, you are right. The problem with the Trump situation is even if he might be the lesser of two evil, the people he's surrounded with, especially J.D. Vance, Palantir boy, a guy who, Peter Thiel, who's the head of the Bilderberg, who's one of the steering committees of the Bilderberg Group. And don't tell me we're on Rumble. It's the same thing. No, we're talking about millions of dollars were given by Peter Thiel to J.D. Vance. They can move us further into track and trace systems. And this whole immigrants are voting is just a way. Catherine Austin Fitts said this, right? Catherine Austin Fitts, a Republican, used to work for George Herbert Walker Bush's campaign, right? His administration. She's even said, you guys have to be careful because the Republicans and the populist right is trying to do by throwing out this fear that immigrants vote is they're trying to put you on more track and trace systems. They're trying to get you on the grid. They want you to get that real ID. They want you to get on that QR code so they can track and trace you all the time. So we got to be careful of those trapdoors. That's what people are realizing when it comes to Donald Trump with J.D. Vance. And Elon Musk just showed his whole ass out there, ladies and gentlemen. He exposed himself completely with his Netanyahu love and his anti-Maduro love, right? I mean, he just forget about it. They've exposed themselves, and we got to be careful of that because they are moving us further into track and trace systems. Our friend Gloria talks about it all the time. Like they want to get you on the grid. That's what this is about. CBDCs, banks, you know what I'm saying? Put you on the grid. That's what JD Vance is about, and people aren't looking at those trapdoors.
I just want to ask you a question in regard to
I'm an Aries.
this. No, not about your sign, pasta, cheese. I wanted to ask you, do you think there's a reason why somebody like RFK Jr. from the Kennedy dynasty,
Mhm.
with embedded with Hollywood, Zionist Adelson all over him, has been allowed to talk about these things in an open platform now? Things that, Donald Trump literally has reiterated that he was for the vax and blah, blah, blah. Why do you think somebody like RFK Jr. is being allowed to talk about those things? Do you think it's because he's a genuine guy that's just gonna, maybe put in these changes for the better good of the American people? Or do you think it is to sort of co-opt the entire message into the establishment because they've realized how popular it is now to care about your health, how much dissent there was during COVID and during the elections, and how much people were getting away from the two-party system? And so therefore, what do? They don't oppose you. They become and take over your message. And that is just 101 of the intelligence apparatus. So to me, that is exactly what RFK Jr.'s role is in this whole scenario. He is able to talk about these things. That you're right. His speech, and I said it, his speech was actually a good speech if you just listen to it in the vacuum of, oh, he's this guy talking about all these things that we have all been talking about here in these political spheres. But of course, he's RFK Jr. and he's saying them, and he's running for president, and now he's saying he's going to support Trump. Well, gee, like that, yeah, of course, that's going to make some people think, well, maybe for this, I will vote for him. I will support Donald Trump because there's a chance that maybe this guy is being genuine. But how many times have we been fed this sheep herder mentality, whether it was with Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump and now RFK Jr.? Why do people think that just this once the agenda is going to change and a billionaire or millionaire from the establishment families, because you're not going to tell me that Ivanka Trump and Kim Kardashian being best friends and all of these intermarriages and mingling between Democrats and Republicans, including the Trump family, is an accident. It's a coincidence. You're not going to tell me that. I just don't buy it. So for me, it's like, why do you think that just this once there's a chance that some billionaire oligarch or, establishment figure, political dynasty figure is going to come and save the American people? Why? Because you have been fed and bred to think that that is what's going to happen in every facet of our lives. And that's why. And you know what? That is not going to happen. I'm sorry to break it to everybody that's excited. That's not going to happen. The only people that can save us are the American people. Period.
You're absolutely right. Listen, first off, I didn't know that Kim and Ivanka were best friends, and I don't know if Kim's single anymore, because I'd like to holler at her. I can use myself a nice trophy wife. But besides that, I know, fam, I just cringe. Besides that, when it comes to RFK, I think at the end of the day, we also have to understand RFK's history, his plight, where he's come from. I think the man wanted to do good. I do believe that his uncle and his father were good people, whether they were killed by the Mossad or killed by whoever, who knows. But, they're definitely, surely their message, they weren't perfect, but there was a lot of good things about them. However, I think when it comes to RFK, he's been compromised. And when he was been compromised, he's then been co-opted. And the fact that he was the perfect candidate to move, like when you have a person like that who has a history of fighting against these agencies, who fighting against these captured, three-letter agencies. And I'm talking about the agencies like the FDA and the EPA and whatnot, who dictate the food we eat, the water we drink, the environment we're in. From what I understand is he hasn't given a big opinion about it, but somebody kind of mentioned something about geoengineering, and he's even acknowledged that that's going on. The air we breathe is being messed with over here. So I think he was the perfect candidate, in which I believe the top of the CIA, the heads of the CIA, are very smart. However, they have a lot of stupid people working for them too as well, and that's exposing them. But he was the perfect candidate to co-opt and take a message with him, because he had the pedigree with him, and he does seem genuine at times. But when he talks about Israel, it just seems like this guy's, where's he getting this from? Like, no, I don't accept this. You're too smart to be this stupid. And once again, I think he is compromised in this situation. And unfortunately, the CIA understands about human behavior, and they understand that every person has weaknesses, and they're going to get you on those weaknesses. It's not a hidden secret that RFK has admitted himself he had a drug problem, he had a sex addiction problem, and there are so many things they have against him to move him in a certain direction. So at the end of the day, I think it's not the fact that it's just RFK himself. I think that RFK, if he wanted to speak freely, would probably speak so much out against Israel, but they've got so much stuff on him that he's got to be their little whipping boy. Also, his wife tied to Hollywood. I mean, these are just I'm just throwing guesses out there, because at the end of the day, it's never what we see in front of us. There's always more to it. It's never black or white. It's always gray. But he was the perfect person to co-opt because of his pedigree and his history, because he has a history of fighting back against actual polluters, about trying to get our food healthy and whatnot. You heard that conversation out there. He's like an encyclopedia, almost like Max Blumenthal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Max Blumenthal starts going after these politicians here in Chicago the other day. It's like he knows what every single one of them has done. He's got that encyclopedia in his mind. RFK has that same brand when he understands the statistics, because he looked at it so much and understands how many of our kids are being affected by X, Y, and Z. For him to throw the statistic out there that like 70% of the school foods that these kids eat are processed foods that are unhealthy as can be, that he knows those things, those are powerful messages. So at the end of the day, if his message is true, but the person is co-opted, which I do believe that RFK is, we have to find a way to take that message and go with it ourselves. You said it best in this whole situation, fam. No one is coming to save us. Only we can save us, but we have to find a way. And what is said sometimes has to be paid attention to, rather than the person who's just saying it. And then when he does do something stupid, then we call him out for that. After October 7th, there was no way I would ever support or vote for this guy ever. Even though the voting doesn't make a difference anyways, because our voting systems are so messed up. You know what I'm saying? But even still, there's no way. But there are so many good things he does talk about. But that's part of the plan, fam. They did this in COVID with Steve Bannon. He was able to gain so many people's trust. But at the end of the day, who does he want to blame? He wants to blame China and go to war with China. So you got to be careful. Ian Davis said this too, as well. I haven't spoke to Ian Davis in a long time. He goes, don't pay attention to where they grab you. Pay attention to where they're bringing you. And with Donald Trump, they're bringing us to CBDCs. They're putting you on the grid. They're going to do the stuff that the Democrats can't do, because if the Democrats try to do it, people, no. But if Donald Trump says it, because they know the anatomy of people hero worship so much in the United States, they need it. There goes my hero, right? Come on.
Yep. And that's that. And fam, I got to get going soon. Did you want to say something?
No, we can't do it because I have to get going soon too as well. Okay. I got to go to get into the studios to be on the critical hour, fam. So I got to do it. So that's
all right
for today.
That's it for today, guys.
Anything special going on, fam? Did you talk about your trip? Did you let everybody know where you were? Iraq.
So guys, I did just get back from Iraq, and I have some stuff coming out, and hopefully with Jayme's help, I can show you guys some of that soon. But I have just so much to say on that, and it'll just take probably an entire stream for me to express what I saw, because it was just phenomenal and amazing. Starting with the 27 million people march in Karbala, where millions of people come from all over to march for on the anniversary of the martyr. And on top of that, it turned into a Gaza march. And it's actually a very socialist concept. And I actually said that. I'm like, this is because they all like house each other. They all feed each other. They all do different types of work. And it's in a way organized chaos. And it works. And they were giving us food. It was just amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And it's not just people from Iraq. It is people from all over the world. So it was pretty cool. And I'll talk more about that. So
fam, I got a feeling I'm going to be covering a lot of elections this year. I'm going to get back into the election game. I did a show with Clint Curtis the other day. We put it on the Pasta to Go and the YouTube channel. We might have taken it down. I'm not sure. I think we always do. But we talked with Clint Curtis, our good friend, who explained to us that it wasn't Hugo Chavez who asked for a flipping mechanism. And it's ridiculous to put it on Hugo Chavez as if the United States can't find anybody to have a flipping mechanism in a machine. It's ridiculous, but we had a great conversation and election situations going on. I got to say this much. I think they have to simplify their message, but the people who are pushing back in Georgia and in Florida, mostly conservatives because they feel like they've been cheated, but they are pushing back in the right way, demanding hand counts, in-person voting, and the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of great solutions out there, fam. I think that at the end of the day, we still have to push back against this system. I agree that you guys have every right when you and Misty say you're not going to put into this system to vote because it's not, worthy of doing it. I hope you guys respect my point of view about that's my God-given right. They'll always be voting, and I will vote, and I will make them cheat me and steal my vote because at the end of the day, also, you can't go in, and it's not like this is going to work anyways. You can't object legally to an election if you don't vote in it because you have to be affected. So automatically, if you don't vote, they're saying you're not withstanding to get out of there because you don't have a right. However, I think this two-prong approach that we're working with, I acknowledge that your vote doesn't count, that they're going to steal it or give somebody else an extra vote, and they're going to patent it. But it's very interesting what's going on, fam, because with the RFK joining Donald Trump, remember, we always say this, that the Democrats or the Republicans, when they cheat, they don't want to cheat as much as they have to. In other words, they want to cheat as little as possible because they want to cover their tracks. Well, now with RFK joining Donald Trump, there's nobody taking away those votes from Donald Trump in those battleground states, even though they're leaving him on the they're leaving him on the ballot, even though he's requesting to come off. That's crazy. But they understand that right now, the only people who are appealing votes for them, Jill Stein, Cornel West, they're going to try to keep them off the ballot. They were able to keep Cornel West off the ballot in Pennsylvania, which is crazy.
Of course they are.
Yeah, but also, too, fam, some good news, too, as well from the Cornel West campaign. Cornel West is starting to open up to the eyes of what happened in COVID and understanding that there was a role to play, that the censorship wouldn't be there.
You're welcome, Cornel. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Listen, he wants to have a truth commission, and I've reached out to his campaign, and I'd like to lead that truth commission and get it in front of him so we can explain to him. I think this is something big because this will be a start, because a lot of people, if Cornel West goes along and says, okay, tell me everything, then a lot of other people, this might be a case study on how we reprogram people to understand what happened during the COVID and how we can help them out moving forward and understanding that Big Pharma is not their friend.
There's a lot more of that, by the way, happening. Just people aren't vocal about it. But anyway, guys, we'll see you soon. We're going to try to do these way more often. So we're going to try to get back on track with that. But and yes, I do plan on coming to the United States soon. But of course, I will need to take the necessary precautions. And I'm telling you all right now, it is very, very dangerous to go back at this moment.
You have to be careful.
Yeah. So anyway, I will speak to you all soon, and I will be on TNT in a few minutes. So tune in there.
TNT?
Yeah, TNT
With
Radio.
who?
I forgot the name, to be honest.
Not Jason Burmis.
No, Brisbane. Oh, no, Basil Valentine in Brisbane.
That one.
Yeah.
He's cool.
That one.
Guys, we'll see you. We love you.
Bye.
Say the line.
Convo out.
Yeah.